Well, I know a lot of people have been waiting on this. I have finally come up with a couple solutions for the HDMI connector. Don't mind the holes too much. This is my first attempt, so the holes will be kind of rough. But I thought we were going to have 3, honestly. And turns out we can only do 2 because of this plastic right here. I thought maybe we could get rid of this post and place it down in this pocket, but you can see the board is too long and it's going to hit this. So that location is out for now. We could always get Kevin to redo the board and make it shorter so it would fit in there, but it's not a high priority, especially since I think this one is probably going to be the most popular option. I really like that the connector is over here with the other connectors. It just seems fitting, and this one just seems kind of out of place. I was kind of hoping it'd be right over that channel right there, but again, with the way it's physically laid out now, that's just not possible, because we do have to have a bolt and nut to hold it down, and that needs to be in the plastic, and for where it is now, that's going to have to be where it's located. If we move the connector over anymore, then this nut and bolt have to come over, and then we'll miss the channel, and it just won't fit in there right. We won't have nothing to bolt it down with. There's another hole back here we could use, like if you wanted to put 2 right here like that. It would kind of be in the way of the rib cable, but I don't think it would be that big of a deal. The good thing about this hole is that it does have the ground plane exposed there, and that's exactly what it's made for, is to, you know, hold it down with a nut and bolt. So I was kind of thinking, if this is going to be the popular one of the things I might want to do in the how-to is remove that sticker first, then do the hole, and then put the sticker back on, and then maybe cut that little bit of sticker off, because it looks like it will miss the lettering, but it does take off some of the actual sticker, as you can see. And it looks rough just because I used a file. I wasn't trying to make it nice. This is not one of my nicer bottom shells. It's all roughed up, and I had to sacrifice one to see what we could do here. Cutting the posts. Yeah, originally on this location there was a hole put here that I made Kevin put in so that we could locate it on the post that was sticking up. It was just a locator post. You can see it's not a screw post. It just located the big RF shielding that sits on top of everything. That's all it did. And we were talking about cutting it down close to the bottom there and then just using it as a locator pin, but I think since we're going to have to screw it down, we may as well not worry about that. So I cut it down flush, and then that nub right there, I cut it down flush as well. Mostly I used my Exolites and whatever knife I could get a hold of that would work, but the same thing happened on this post. Had to cut that post out to get it in here. And this one actually does hold down the motherboard. It's got a hole right there for it, but there's also a hole here, you know, in here and here, so I don't think it's critical. I think cutting out is fine, and our screw hole just barely misses the vents. You see that? And that's a kind of more of a normal head for a screw. You can see it hangs over a little bit, but there is no vertical clearance issue with the rubber feet. Keep it up off of that screw head just fine. It's not gonna scratch your table or whatever. And of course the one over here is completely recessed. No chance of it hitting anything. Just not thrilled with the looks of that hole being offset like that, but I think that looks pretty good. You know, and you'll have your AC adapter here in this hole, so might as well have your other cord right there, right? So that gets my vote. One other thing I noticed is because of the vent holes right here, there's a good chance that you'll actually be able to see the diagnostic LED. You know, it'll just kind of just slowly on and off kind of a thing when it's running fine, and it'll just blink real fast when there's no HDMI cord plugged in. That's the only diagnostics the LED ended up doing, but at least you'll be able to see it better through them vent holes, and even probably even through the RF and video, or you know, the video and audio output, since those are not really completely sealed up very well when you put that in there. Looks like we will have to use, I think I got an 8-inch, I think I got two 8-inches here, at least one 8-inch for CPU, but it doesn't look like we're going to have to swap them, because that's CPU. Just the way that it sits in there is perfect. It looks like I could actually use a 6-inch on the PPU to come over to the PPU connector. I have to ask Kevin about that. I don't know if these need to be the same length or not. Okay, yeah, the big issue with putting it over here is if you want to socket the interposer and the chip, it's going to hit that connector, and it's going to stand off just a little too much for my liking. Yeah, it's way off. Now, even without the main board here, like if we put it over here, both chips do actually sit on this, but it's not going to hurt anything. I already tested it, and I laid it down, and I can push down each corner, and I'd say it's not much more than a millimeter or two away from hitting the posts, so we're safe there. Like on the NSRGB, I was always soldering it straight down to the motherboard. Since it hangs, it's going to hang off the bottom, but that was because the board was bigger and, you know, it was offset and there was more leverage. These are so small PCBs that it's going to take quite a bit for them to come out of the sockets. I'm not saying it won't happen like in shipping if it gets dropped really hard, but if it's packed well, it's very unlikely. And yeah, I'm in the middle of doing a cap job on this one, so it's not quite ready for install yet, but wanted to make some video about our two options of placement. Oh, I didn't even finish that. Yeah, so if you do want to place it there, you will have to solder the interposers at least directly down. If not, your CPU and PPU directly to the interposers, which I do not recommend. CPU more than PPU, but the chips do fail for various unknown reasons. So if you need to get in there and replace the chips, it's easiest to do if they're socketed like this. So I would recommend soldering down the interposer directly to the motherboard. That looks like it will mean there's a electric cap right there. You can see it will have to be completely moved. Oh, you know what? Looking at it, it looks like it may not. That may not work. The 74HC04 right here, that chip is directly beneath the connector on the interposer, so that may be a no-go. Yeah, it's looking more and more like it's gonna have to come over here. But for now, I'm gonna work on getting a template made for setting the hole where it needs to be here. Getting a template for this hole was also going to be quite a bit of a nightmare, because there's not a nice sharp edge right there on that channel. It's going to be really hard to lay a stencil on there and get it set properly. And you can see I made my hole too low. But over here, it'd be a lot easier. We could probably actually set it inside of that square where the sticker is laying. If not, the whole square right there. So yeah, I don't know, I think it's looking more and more like this is our main option here, and I'm okay with that. I don't see any reason why you would really complain too much about your connector being there instead of over here. Tell me what you think. Are we good to go? Just mocking up the ribbon cable, and it looks like we do miss that post right there. I think all that post ever did was kind of a spacer for that bottom RF shielding, which we have to throw away because of the CPU and PPU interposer stack height. So I think we're gonna go there. I do think I'll go after some black screws though. I don't know, it doesn't really matter, but we'll probably stick with the button head like that. There's just not enough plastic there to go for any kind of a countersunk screw. I'll also definitely look for a lock washer, and maybe even go as far as throwing a dab of super glue right onto the threads right there, just to make damn sure that it doesn't come loose in there. We don't want that nut coming off and shorting pins out and stuff. But yeah, I'm sure a lock washer and super glue will hold it just fine. Once it's shipped to the customer and sitting on the owner's shelf, it's not going to move.